Hey YouTube, I'm back again. My name is Kat, and I'm back to talk about the grieving process and the first 3 steps that I went through when I came to adoption reunion, when I reached adoption reunion with my daughter. So I'm going to get right into it. Let me start with my intro. My name is Kat Dayhold. I'm a 47-year-old birth mom to my 31-year-old daughter, who I have been in reunion with for a little bit over 3 years. So the last time, the video that I shot right before this was telling you about the 10 steps of grief that I went through from day 1 of finding my daughter till today. And today I'm going to go into depth and I am going to talk about the first 3 steps that I ended up going through kind of all together. Also, the reason why I'm bunching them together in the way that you see that I'm bunching them, because they were all parts of the grieving process that I kind of went through at the same time. They kind of overlapped each other, and then it would jump into another section of all these different facets and everything. So the first part of the grieving process that I started to go through was the happy initial contact grieving. This was relief that I found her, that I can now know what she looks like. I now know that she's alive because I had a closed adoption and I didn't know if she was dead or alive all these years. It was, complete elation that, I found my daughter. There was always a part of me that knew I would find her, but then there was always a part of me that was like, what if I don't? What if I never see her again? It was a small part, but it was still like, what if it never happens? I always kind of had this gut feeling that it would, but, I always, in the back of your head, there's always like, what if not? So anyway, this elation in finding her, bewilderment, and just like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. And it's so fast, and it's so much emotion. Excuse me. It's just so much to take in and to deal with when it first happens. It's really a first contact is really weird. I don't care if it's you find a picture of them on Facebook. I don't care if it's you match DNA on Ancestry, or if it's a phone call or a letter, whatever it is. It's just like this amazing, like, wow, oh my God, they're here. They're back. Like, not even they're back. Like, it's just, I can't explain it. I cannot explain it. If you're a birth parent, gone through reunion, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's joy and shock. The shock of, oh my God, I found her. Oh my God. Like, it's that was a good 2 weeks of just shock. Like, I can't believe this is happening. And then there's also the nervousness. What do I do? What do I say? How do I know if she knows she's adopted? How do I know if she wants me to contact her? How do I know if she doesn't hate me? There's so much, and I call it part of the grieving because it's ups and downs. You're crying this whole time. Like, you're crying because you're happy, and you're crying because you're scared, and you're crying because you're nervous, and you're just crying. Like, and it's just a surreal feeling, but it's partly grieving, because now, things are coming back. And that's the second part. So the first part is like 2 weeks long. It's like the initial shock, I can't believe this, until you start reliving the relinquishment. And you start to remember. And you start to remember everything that happened to you. You start to remember the pregnancy, and you start to remember labor, and you start to remember the people around you and how they treated you and they said to you. Like, I remember word for word things that people said to me, and instances, and that that was hard. That was hard when that started to happen, and I started to relive it because I had suppressed it all. I pushed it all down. I pushed it away. And that was my survival technique, to ignore it. Just ignore it. Because I can't deal with it. Because I couldn't deal with it because I wasn't allowed to deal with it, if that makes sense. Because if I tried to, I remember how, and it's still like this to this day, I tried to go to my mother with things and I don't want to talk about it. It actually just happened today. I don't want to discuss it because we disagreed on something, so she just cuts it off and nope, that's it. That's the end of it. So I learned from a very early age to just deal with things. Just ignore it. Just ignore the feeling. So, dealing with the thinking about the relinquishment all over again, and I went through it again all alone. However, I did have, this time I have my adult friends who, I've been able to confide in, a couple people and stuff like that, and then the birth mom groups. But see, the birth mom groups I didn't have the birth mom groups when I first reunited with my daughter. The birth mom groups came later for me. So during this time of me reuniting with my daughter, me reliving all of this stuff, I did it all on my own again. I did have my good friend, who was I became friends with her. She was a customer at the bar. I would talk to her a lot. And it was easy to talk to her because she knew nothing about me from back then. So it was easy. But that fighting with that devil, he still comes up. He still comes up every once in a while, but not as bad. So the relinquishment, thinking about the relinquishment and everything, baby daddy, everything that he put me through and how he acted, and then I'm thinking, oh, well, should I tell my daughter, and should I, tell her everything, there was a couple things that I didn't lie to her, but I held them back from her, and she knows this all now. And I told her all this. I held them back because I didn't want to hurt her. But that was hard. That was hard. So there's that grieving that you have to go through. And that's probably one of the hardest ones to go through, because you don't want to relive that. You don't want to relive giving your baby up again, walking out of the hospital again. I remember exactly what happened that day and exactly how I felt. That day, I changed. I was a completely different person from that day on. So anyways, so you're gonna have to go through that grieving. I'm convinced every birth mother who reunites will go through that grieving, that relinquishment trauma grieving. Um, and then this was a really hard one for me. So the reliving the relinquishment, I would probably say that was like a good 3 or 4 months. And that started, you know, when she started to ask me the questions, the big hard questions. And then after that is the realizing that I'll never be your mother. I'll never be anything more than birth mother to her. Um, the loss of raising her, the loss of knowing her as a little girl, and holding her little hand, and you know how the kids hold the pinky and everything, like all those thoughts, like everything. You think of everything. You know, brushing her hair and you know wiping her tears and taking her to see Disney and Santa Claus and like everything. You think of everything, and it sucks, and it's a big grieving time. Sorry, I'm getting stuffy because I'm trying not to cry. The biggest trigger for me during this time was this picture. When I saw this picture, I was at work. And I was just closing up, and it was coronavirus. So it was dead. Like there was nobody there. It was like June or something like that. It was probably a good 6 to 9 months in. And I saw this picture on Facebook, I believe. And I think it's geared to mothers who lost their children to death. Their child died. But I saw this and I broke down. Because it described exactly how I felt. The only thing I saw was the mother bawling her eyes out and a child of that is her tears. Because that's all my daughter will ever be to me as a child. As an adult, it's different, but as a child, I'll never have that. And it's like grasping for, you know, these, this child that's not there. And I broke down and I cried and I bawled my eyes out. I remember I went to the Midway. The restaurant that I worked in, it was a big restaurant, so it had a big floor. And in the middle of the floor, it had like 4 walls with a little door. They weren't high or anything, but that's like the waitress station, and we called it the Midway. And I remember I had closed everything down, and it was pretty dark. And I went in there, and I just bawled. I bawled as quietly as I could, but I couldn't stop crying for like 5 minutes because this picture right here, it explained it explained how I felt. It's exactly how I felt. That's it. So that picture really started to the beginning of the loss of raising my daughter, loss of knowing her as a little kid. That really started that type of grieving. And now these are all overlapping. Like the joy of finding her is kind of over with now because now it's, you know, like 7, 8, 9 months in, something like that. So it's the reliving the relinquishment, dealing with her birth father, because I was connecting them and she was going through trying to connect with him. So I was going back and forth with them. And now I saw this picture, and so now I'm starting to grieve the loss of not raising her. So that went on. And it was at that point where I kind of threw myself into writing my guided journal. So put a picture here. I wrote a guided journal to try to help people who were the premise is to help people who are in adoption reunion kind of find out things about each other. So it's all kinds of questions and everything. So there's a section for medical, for birth parents to fill out for medical. You know, all your medical information for adoptees. There's a section for birth parents to fill out for their adoptees with family history and like family stuff and why did you give me up, what was the pregnancy story, birth father, like all that. There's a section for adoptees to fill out if it's a book for an adoptee, and that's, you know, your family and like how do you like your family and were they good to you and what are your traditions and all that kind of stuff, so that the birth parent can learn about the adoptee. And the rest of the book is like questions to get to know each other. Like, you know, like my daughter isn't a big question and answer person. I can come up with a whole bunch of questions. So it's, you know, I put things together like, do you prefer the beach or the mountains? Did you play an instrument when you were little? Do you play an instrument now? You know, what are your favorite sports teams? What do you like to do on vacation? Like all kinds of questions. What's your favorite food? But like a little bit more in depth. Like there's a lot of questions in there. So I wrote that during this time because I needed something to channel my grief through and everything. So I wrote that and I published it on Amazon Kindle, or not Kindle, KDP. So it's a print-on-demand book. So it's linked down below if you want to check it out. So I wrote that during this time. And she checked it out. I made sure she was okay with it and everything like that. So then I went through that whole process. And then at the end of that process, I remember I couldn't look at this picture again. I couldn't. Because it was too much for me. And this whole time, almost every day, I would cry. And I would grieve that loss. I liken it to, I don't know if you've ever heard the expression of Dark Night of the Soul, where it's intense personal grief work. Like you dig down deep. That's what I felt like it was. It was the Dark Night of the Soul. I was fully depressed. Nobody knew it. You wouldn't be able to tell, but I was fully depressed. I struggled to get out of bed in the morning. I struggled to clean my house. I struggled to shower. I struggled to be at work. And that's part of why I did this journal. You know, like I just needed to have some type of outlet. Like it was bad. And this whole time I remember it took about 6 months. And then something made me look at this picture again. I'm going to put it up right here. Because I looked at it again and I stared at it and I said, oh my God. When I first saw it, all I saw was the mother crying, bawling her eyes out, holding the child that was no longer there. What I didn't see was the cloud overhead, the white cloud raining down. I didn't see the skies starting to lighten on the side, and I certainly didn't see the rainbow at the bottom with the flowers and the green grass, that all that rain and all those tears are making that rainbow and making that flower grow and making that grass grow. And I said, holy crap. I said, this is adoption reunion. Like, all my tears and all, like, it was a revelation to me. I was like, this is a good thing, because, you know, at the end of all my tears and everything, I have adoption reunion. I still have my daughter. My daughter is the rainbow. So I still have her. I have good things that, you know, and that lifted me out of the dark night of the soul. Like, the depression really started to lift then, and it was surreal. Because I hated that picture. I didn't want to look at it again. I loved it because it spoke so much to me, but I hated it because of the way it made me feel. And I didn't see that rainbow and those flowers. You know, you see the flowers on the side, they're like dead and dying and everything, but in the middle with the tears that are, it's making something else grow. There's happiness after all. And to me, it was the reunion. Like, yes, I went through all of this. Yes, I have lost her as a little girl. I have lost that time. It is over with. I'm never going to get that back. I'm never going to have that chance again. I'm not going to be her mom. But now I have her as an adult. We can form a relationship. We can form a great friendship. We can form a type of mother-daughter bond, but you know, it's not even to that. It's, you know, there's respect between us and everything like that, but you know, we can form a different type of relationship between the two of us. You know, so all is not lost. You know, so it was a big, not a plus, but it was a big moment for me, because I was able to be like, okay, you know, let me pack that baggage up and put it aside, because I don't need it anymore. And I finally came out of it, and I grieved the loss of her. I still do. I can't say that I don't. Of course I get sad, you know, and I'll never have that and everything, but it's not as heavy and as dark and as bleak as it was for like that 6-month period of time where I was just like, that's gone. So those are the 3 facets of grief that I initially went through. I would say that is from contact to about 9 months, 10 months, because I know I didn't feel crappy when I met her. I know that the dark night of the soul was over at that point. Like, I know that I wasn't in that frame of mind anymore, and I met her 11 months in. So, you know, that was the first 3 facets. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about the next 4 facets. I am going to talk about the what ifs and the could have beens, because it kind of goes along with the dark night of the soul and the loss of her, but it more so goes along with learning about the past. And that's, you know, I'm gonna go into learning about the past and what that did for me, learning about adoption trauma and the anger. And then after that, I'll have another video that is the understanding and acceptance, healing, and moving on, because those all fit together too. So that's it for this video. It's a heavy subject and it's a lot to deal with, and it's emotionally taxing for me. But, um, I just wanted to share and let everybody know you're not alone. Um, it's hard. It sucks. Um, but, there's so much to unpack when you are in reunion, and it's never ending. um this may come up again for me. I don't know. In 5 years something may happen where I get all depressed again. I hope not, because I'm so done with being depressed. But you know you don't know, but just know you're not alone. There are others out there that do feel the same way. Let me know how you feel in the comments below, and if you'd like me to talk about anything in particular, or if you have any questions for me. Okay, so please, if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit that like button, because it helps the algorithm for me, because this type of information is really needed out there. All the all the all the information out there, if you look, is all done by adoption agencies who don't know. They put out a lot of positive propaganda, and we need to really have real, true birth parents who have actually lived it, not some adoption agency who just wants to make some money. So, all right, that's it for me. I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night. Thanks. Bye-bye.